know a lot of people know about the Clutch City era of the Houston Rockets, but not everyone knows its origin. The whole thing actually started with an NFL game back in 1993. The Houston Oilers had a 32-point second-half lead on the Bills, but coughed it up and lost in overtime. To this day, it is still the biggest comeback in NFL history, which is great if you live in Buffalo. Not so much in Houston. Then came the Rockets the following year. In the second round of the '94 playoffs, a heavily favored Houston team blew multiple big leads in successive games to go down 0-2 to the Suns. It looked like another major stumble. And so the next day, the Houston Chronicle's front page headline was Choke City. Except then, the Rockets dug it out, beating the Suns in 7 games on their way to winning a championship, and Clutch City was born. So fast forward to this Rockets team, which has seen its share of winning, but also, if we're going to be honest, of choking too. None more so than in last year's playoffs when the Rockets were supposed to be title contenders, but instead fell in the second round to a Warriors team that lost Kevin Durant mid-series. That performance was so crushing to the franchise that Houston made major changes over the summer. Chris Paul went out. Russell Westbrook came in. A big chunk of the coaching staff was let go. By the time we got to last night's early season matchup with the Clippers, the Rockets were out to prove they were a different team, and they did start that way, jumping ahead by as many as 17, even as Russ picked up 4 early fouls. Then, well, the lead started dwindling. Then it was totally gone. LA went up by 4. That is when James Harden, whose scoring has evolved from ostentatious to flat-out obscene this season, kicked into gear. The man scored 17 points in the game's final 5 or so minutes. 17, and it was ridiculous. He did this from deep, like it was nothing. Then pulled up over JaMychal Green, like it was nothing. He even took Kawhi's cookies here and turned it into a nice alley-oop for Tyson Chandler. By the time it was all over, the Rockets had the W, Harden had 47 points, and Houston's defense looked completely functional, holding the Clips to just 93. Actually, it was worse than that for LA, which lost not just the game, but its coach. Yes, Doc Rivers was tossed for arguing with officials over how many timeouts LA had, a moment made absolutely amazing by his son Austin, who first motioned refs to tee his dad up, and then waved at Doc as he left the court, making that call me phone call gesture to him. Austin then took to Twitter, "Well, Thanksgiving is gonna be weird." Yeah, awkward. Although he also later put this up on IG, "Great win, love you, Pops," to which Doc replied in the comments, "Hilarious, love you." Aw, so all's well that ends well there. Decidedly less warm and fuzzy were Russell Westbrook and Patrick Beverley postgame. These two have a long and sometimes bloody history, and last night Russ took another shot at Pat, saying this.
Pat Bev trick y'all, man, like he playing defense. He don't guard nobody, man, just running around doing nothing. It's not. As you've seen what happened, 47. All that commotion to get 47.
Does Russ have a point?
No.
James Harden was actually 0 for 6 last night when Pat Bev was his primary defender. So no, but Russ is right about this. James did drop 47 on a team that had been ranked collectively as having the NBA's best defense in his previous 5 games. That is something. And Harden did it not just to fill up the stat sheet, but by delivering huge when his team was down and absolutely needed him to. In fact, in a city that knows both sides of the spectrum, well, you might even say he was clutch. At least as clutch as you can get for a game in November. So, guys, I do want to talk more about that Rockets defense because we talked a lot about them when they were terrible during the first week or two of the season. And last night, Perk, they held the Clippers to 93 points. Do you start to believe in what they can do on that end of the court?
Yeah, I'm leaning that way.
Okay.
I'm not sold all the way. You know, I watch this Rockets team, and sometimes they don't look engaged. You know, not every night, not consistently. And let's be real, the Clippers have struggled offensively for the last, 5 games. So teams have been locking them up, you know, pretty well. But let's give credit, man. This was a big win for the Houston Rockets last night. But I think, you know, one thing that I see about the Rockets is that, and if I'm Mike D'Antoni, you know, I would start running a couple plays, you know, for PJ Tucker, guys like that, you know, getting him on easy little layups to make him feel involved. Because once you make a player feel involved, then they get more engaged into the game, and they don't want to sit around and just watch James do him or watch Russ do him and just stand around and not be, because it's hard to just say, hey, let them score and then y'all run down and play defense. Yeah. But last night was impressive on both ends by the Rockets, and one thing that it showed me is that James Harden is the best scorer in the NBA, period, hands down. It's not even a debate.
So in a matter of days, because we're talking small sample size here, right? So in a matter of a week, Houston's defensive rating has jumped from 28th to 18th, right? Okay? Earlier in the year, teams were shooting 42% from the three-point line against them.
Right.
In the last 3 games, they're only shooting 25% from the three-point. So that's what I'm looking at, Rachel. Right. Can you sustain that? Right. Because they haven't done a great job at defending that three-point line defensively. If you can do that, then I start really believing that you can play good defense. And you got to do a better job of stopping opponents' points in the paint, something they haven't done as well. You do that, I'm on board.
I'm on board too, but I'm not going to jump the gun, but I like what I've been seeing over the last 5 games, though, from the Rockets.
There's a pride thing, too, right? Sure. This team certainly considers itself a championship contender, again, and to have people all over the league making fun of your defense and throwing up that score against the Wizards and all of that stuff. I think guys, we've got 2 former MVPs on that team. They're sending the message throughout the locker room, we got to tighten this up. To your point, I don't know how long that lasts, but you got to give them credit now because they're getting it done. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.